Дойче Думков, ты еще увидишь, как из-за твоей продажной глупости, Анна-Лена Бербок, Берлин будет гореть.
Надо как-то сделать так, чтобы американские солдаты начали гибнуть.
Да мы сотрем в порошок Варшаву и Вильнюс.
Почему мы признаем Францию в ее границах?
Как я хочу посмотреть, чтобы Урсулиха фон дер Ляля корчилась с куском беспилотника в глотке.
Когда на сегодняшний день мы говорим, что война будет безъядерной, мы, наверное, лукавим.
По количеству на душу населения, правда, Канада ее опережает, но Америка — это мировая держава победила.
Я сейчас требую спалить Берлин.
Welcome to a special episode of Russian Hate Speech, where we take a look back at some of the most outrageous and absurd claims made by Russian propagandists over the past year. These statements, packed with threats, distortions, and grand delusions, paint a chilling picture of the Kremlin's narrative machinery. Let's dive in. We begin with Kremlin's mouthpiece Dmitry Kiselyov, who issued an ultimatum about NATO's involvement in Ukraine. If NATO countries deploy their forces to Ukraine in order to blow strategic defeat to Russia, then the very moment will come of which Putin has spoken. Why do we need a world if Russia is not in it? In that case, we will send everything flying everywhere. Sarmat, Yars, and avant-garde missiles. American decision-making centers and launch sites on land and sea are already in our crosshairs. France as a nuclear power will have to be immediately disarmed. The British Isles will simply go underwater. We have the technologies for this, and we have talked about them before, but it would be better not to take things that far. And this isn't propaganda.
И это не пропаганда.
From veiled threats to unbridled fantasies, another notorious Kremlin propagandist, Vladimir Solovyov, envisioned Britain becoming a watery grave.
Britain is preparing civilians for defense, which is utterly pointless. Why bother? They should instead learn to breathe underwater because Poseidon will deal with them hard and fast. If the British manage to live underwater, that's one option. If they realize they won't, they should stop acting foolishly and overthrow the madmen currently in power.
The portrayal of Britain as a villain is a recurring trope in the angry rants of Russian propagandists. Russian journalist Igor Korotchenko accused London of being the center of global evil and blamed Britain for provoking the Third World War.
We don't care about this Britain. If they had stayed on those islands, stayed away from us, we wouldn't even think about them. But it is Britain that is the engine of Western military support. London is the center of global evil. It is there that the Anglo-Saxons, with their favorite tactics of divide and rule today, are trying to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia using the hands of Ukraine. Nothing has changed over the last 500 years. Let me remind you that it was at the time of Ivan the Terrible that London officially recognized Russia as its strategic, military and political adversary, and now they're intimidating their own citizens with nuclear war. Note, we're not threatening them. They are provoking Ukraine and escalating, providing modern weapons. They are. It is Sunak and his cabinet who are the warmongers of the Third World War.
And here is a political commentator Dmitry Kulikov, accusing the West of intending to kill Russians.
They have come to kill and rob us again. Just those two words. The Western world is here to kill and rob us again. Nothing else, just that. Those who survive in our territory, according to their plan, will have to fight China out of hunger. The survivors here will have to fight China for a piece of bread.
Russian military expert Vladislav Shurygin introduced one of Kremlin's favorite narratives about Nazism in Europe.
Nazism as such is basically a defense mechanism of the European organism. It always turns on as soon as it faces a threat. You yourself mentioned Jews. Before that there were gypsies, before that there were others. So Nazism in this case, European Nazism, can be refined. It can be prehistoric, but it is always a defensive reaction of the European civilization towards the enemy.
Vladimir Solovyov, in another fiery claim, fantasized about nuclear annihilation of Britain.
Stama says, here is the green light. Use our Storm Shadow missiles to strike Russian military targets. Debris are going to get hit, no problem. We just need to ensure that when the radioactive wave passes over Big Ben, there's a marker on the map so our ships don't touch it as they sail through what used to be Petty Britain. So we just need to make it clear. And following our good tradition, as always, we'll give 3 days for the citizens of Great Britain to leave the island.
Russian arms dealer Viktor But contributed by calling a Russian war a fight against Satanists.
We must stay the course. Win this war against Satanists and achieve all the goals our president outlined when he launched the special military operation. By doing so, we will change the world. As it stands, this Western elite that rules the so-called Western world is nothing more than a cult of Satanists whose primary goal is the ritual suicide of everyone else but themselves.
Andrei Gurulev suggested drawing a map of total destruction of the West.
Why don't we map out our long-range precision-guided missiles hitting Europe and beyond? Why not create a map today showing the total destruction by our non-strategic nuclear weapons, wherever they can reach?
If that's not enough, Russian Lieutenant General Yevgeny Buzhinsky proposed targeting the US directly.
In general, I believe it's time for us to deliver a very painful blow to the Americans. Either deactivate one of their satellites or bring down a strategic drone into the waters of the Black Sea, so they are forced to reconsider how they proceed with escalation.
For Alexander Dugin, the stakes are global. He called for nothing less than the total eradication of the West.
The West must be eradicated. The Western liberal globalist elite must be completely wiped off the face of the earth, or it will wipe out humanity. Once this problem is resolved, we can move on to other issues.
This apocalyptic rhetoric is echoed by Vladimir Putin, who claimed,
"The threat lies in the imposition and normalization of totalitarian ideologies, as exemplified by modern Western liberalism, which, in my view, has degenerated into extreme intolerance and aggression toward any alternatives or independent, sovereign thought. Today, it even seeks to justify neo-Nazism, terrorism, racism, and the mass genocide of civilian populations."
Amid these sweeping accusations, Andrei Klintsevich revealed the Kremlin's ultimate goal.
Ukraine is the short-term task, but our ultimate goal is to defeat the West, this hegemony, the dollar, and everything else. If we have the opportunity to defeat them, to crush them, why should we stop here? We can't stop. If we've already set this movement in motion, if we realize that we're building a new world, these bricks, then we must keep moving forward.
Even historical revisionism found its place. Latvian journalist Andrei Mamykins claimed that Riga and Tallinn are Russian cities.
Here we are debating whether Lviv is a Russian city or Warsaw is a Russian city. How long have they been part of Russia? A short time, a long time, but also Riga is a Russian city. Tallinn is a Russian city. Blood has been spilled per meter by our ancestors, starting with Peter the Great. These are our lands, these are our Russian people.
The past year has been rife with incendiary rhetoric from Russian propagandists, revealing the depths of Russian imperial ambitions, its apocalyptic threats, and attempts to rewrite history. These statements expose not only the absurdity but also the dangerous underpinnings of the Kremlin's propaganda machine. Thank you for following Russian hate speech throughout the year. See you next time as we continue exposing the Russian propaganda.